I am a graduate of AWRC. My sobriety date is July 2nd, 2015. I am going to share a little bit about my journey. I had a great childhood. I grew up with my mom and my dad and my older brother. My brother was a lot different than I. He was always getting in trouble. He wasn't really a very happy person, and I was the complete opposite. I was very happy-go-lucky, always joyous. I loved school, but that helped me to learn early on that doing the wrong thing and getting in trouble is the only way to get attention. When I was 18, my brother actually, he died by suicide. That was in 2005. That was just a month after I graduated from high school. And that completely broke me. It broke everything in me. And that is I'd always kind of been like a drinker in high school. I enjoyed to, party and stuff. But after my brother passed away, that's when I really didn't have any stopping point. So that's when I tried meth for the first time. I started using cocaine. Even if I didn't like it, I used it. If it didn't make me feel like me, I used it. I started getting into a lot of toxic relationships with a lot of domestic violence. There was one relationship in particular. He had he was jealous. He was very jealous-hearted. He hit my dog in the street. He drove over and killed my dog. And then a couple weeks later, I was in a car with him, and he sped like 90 miles an hour, hitting the car in front of me on purpose, and it broke my ankles. He was drunk, so his body was a little bit, and for some reason, I was not drunk that day. I was not on anything, which was very odd, but I felt it all, and I broke my ankles. He got out, told me to run. Obviously, I couldn't run. My ankles were broken. So that started my journey with pain medicine and opiates. So they had given me, probably the normal, I think it was the normal, like 5 milligram, just, Percocet stuff. And that obviously was not enough for me. I was in a lot of pain, and obviously I needed more, and the doctors didn't know what they were talking about. So I set out on a mission it really wasn't even a mission, it wasn't very hard. I found the 30 milligram Percocets there's no Tylenol in them, it's just Percocet. And I started taking those. And I had no idea what I was getting into. I really had no idea that there was any sort of withdrawal with it or anything. And I remember in my head, it was like in the fall, if it was raining and it was like kind of cold outside and I worked a full day, it was like I'd go home and it was like, I deserve to take this Percocet. I deserve to relax and just hang out. But it's okay because it's a prescription medication. It's not like I'm doing heroin. With that, it led me to heroin because that's a pretty expensive habit to upkeep. So, and then you just start meeting people that, they don't have your best interest at heart. So I was introduced to heroin, and very quickly after that, I was introduced to the needle. And as I said before, I have been in a lot of toxic relationships. So at that point in my life, if a man told me that they want to put a needle in my arm, by all means, whatever, do whatever you need to do. So So I got hooked on heroin and the needle, and then with heroin comes meth and homelessness and, being arrested a million times and all that stuff. So in 2015, I was in yet another toxic relationship. I became pregnant, and I never ever wanted to have kids. It was, it's funny to see some of my Facebook memories from like years ago where I was like, oh, kids. But I got pregnant, and I had 100 plans on how I was going to stop using. I was going to do this, I was going to do that. And it was even, I was going to give birth to this baby in a bathtub, and nobody was ever going to know about it. And we were going to live a magical life, and everything was going to be great. Unfortunately, it was not that easy. So I couldn't quit. I couldn't quit using heroin. I couldn't quit shooting it up. With everything in me, and I wanted to, and I couldn't do it. So the last time that I shot up heroin, I got very sick, and I didn't seek immediate help because I was scared. I knew I was pregnant. I had a warrant out for my arrest, and I just thought, well, I didn't really, who knows what I was thinking, but I didn't go get help. I thought it'll go away. I won't be sick. I'll sleep it off, or I'll do this, or I'll do that. So I went into, I finally had to wave the white flag. I was so sick. It was July, and I went into a hospital with like one sock on, and I was just, I had a temperature of 105. I was septic, so I had a blood infection that was really bad. And since I left that alone for so long, my organs were starting to shut down. My kidneys, my liver, everything was shutting down. So I was in the ICU for about, I don't know how long, a couple days. And what a miracle. I was pregnant, as I said, and my baby was not harmed at all. There was nothing wrong with her. She was perfect. Everything was great. And during that time, my mom likes to tell people that since I was unconscious, that was a few days in like years that my mom was able to lay next to me and just be with me, and I wasn't talking. I wasn't moving my mouth and trying to manipulate and whatever else. But so at that hospital, I got a list of phone numbers to call, and of course I thought I had called everyone, because the majority of treatment centers, still to this day, I think they don't want to take people that are pregnant, especially if you're pregnant struggling with opiate addiction, because if you just quit opiates, then there's a risk to the baby, and so on and so forth. So it's a liability, but for some reason, and I know it's my higher power, I looked at this phone list, and there was back then it was the National Council on Alcoholism and Drug Dependence, NCADD, and that number was on this list of phone numbers, and I called them, and they told me to just come on down. And for some reason that very day I had like a couple different options where I didn't really have to go, but for some reason I went, so I went right to our main office, and I was greeted by a woman named Andrea, and I was fresh out of the hospital. I was like 100 pounds, and Andrea she made me this Michelinas like frozen meal thing. She went and she put it in the microwave, she made it, and she brought it to me when I was doing like my assessment, and she just gave it to me. And it doesn't really sound like it's that big of a deal, like, okay, she gave you food, but when you're out on the streets for so long and I mean, nobody on the streets is going to give you food without some sort of an expectation. And usually the expectation is for something that's just not pleasant. And she gave that meal to me and didn't want anything, just didn't want anything. She just smiled, like, there you go, enjoy, and walked away. And that was the first moment that I felt love. So I stayed, and I went to, I was there for a couple months. I had my baby. I was in Sally's Place. Sally's Place is our program where we have women that are pregnant and we learn to mother in recovery. And since I was on methadone, my daughter was born with neonatal abstinence syndrome. At that time, we just said she was born on methadone, but now I think we all are a little bit more educated, and it is a diagnosis. She had neonatal abstinence syndrome. She had horrible withdrawals. For the first 4 months of her life, she was born 6 pounds, 2 ounces, and she was shaking. She cried for 4 months, the entire 4 months. This baby had a high-pitched scream, and the only way that I was able to navigate through that after I got her home from the NICU was with my sisters in recovery and the staff at AWRC. I had people learning how to hold her, how to soothe her, how to help her. I would get a minute to shower, and the staff at that time would hold my baby so I could take a shower. It was just, I think Bev or somebody said it takes a village, and that's definitely my village. They were. I couldn't have done it without them. So we learned a lot with that, and the experience at the NICU was not very pleasant. There's a lot of stigma that goes into you being a mother and your baby coming off of drugs, whether it's methadone or any other drugs. So it wasn't pleasant, and that was before Hushabye Nursery was around. So Hushabye Nursery is a great tool for women that struggle with that now. But anyways, that experience with her withdrawing and experiencing just complete discomfort, looking down at a little tiny infant, and that life that I created is miserable and uncomfortable because of what I did. So I had to make a promise that I would never lead her to feel discomfort like that again. And so that's a huge piece of the reason that I stay sober. I can't, so the guilt and shame of all that definitely keeps me sober. I tapered off of methadone. For me, the way that I used methadone was for my pregnancy. My goal was to get off of methadone. I took my last dose in August of 2016.
Come on now, be proud.
Oh, I'm proud. That was actually harder to get off of than heroin. That's a long one. It was yeah. So I had a lot of legal troubles. I was arrested twice while in treatment. It was old charges that came up, and one of them was on April Fool's Day of 2016. It wasn't very funny, but so. But I had the entire clinical team of NCADD, AWRC, with me at court, right there, front row, backing me up. And I had like 4 or 5 probation violations, and I should have gone to prison. I had never heard of anybody having that many violations and not going to prison, and I didn't. I had my family behind me, backing me up, and me just staying sober and working on me. So I was able to complete my treatment. So I stayed at Sally's Place for 2 years. I graduated in 2017. at the end, towards your graduation, you get connected with our vocational team. And I had Christina and Valerie in our vocational department. She helped me. I had done some college back when I had I think I graduated high school early and I started college, and I was on a great path, but obviously ran into some trouble. So I left college on academic probation, and I started back in school. I got my associates, and I will graduate in December with a bachelor's in social work. I was also able to get peer support certified through the agency, and that is what I do now. At our agency, I've actually ventured elsewhere, and I seem to always find my way back home. So today I have my beautiful daughter. She's 6.5 now. She's in first grade, and she's amazing. She is my miracle, and I guess I should say her name is Leanna, and my brother that passed away, his middle name is Lee, and I was going to name her Leanna, and for some reason I was like, I kind of want to make it a little bit more feminine, so I changed it in my head to Leanna, and I looked at a baby book from like the 80s, and the name Leanna in that book meant that my God has answered me. So it was too perfect, because she was absolutely the answer to my prayers, and she's the reason that I have a life today. So I have my parents, I have my family back. They actually trust me. They have given me like the alarm code to their house. I have a key to their house. I mean, I wasn't even allowed on the sidewalk in front of their house at one point. So to me, that's amazing. So I'm getting my degree in December. I have a fingerprint clearance card, which is pretty cool to me. Maybe not to a lot of the normal people in the world, but like to have the state deem me as like they looked at my file and they deemed me a responsible human being. So that's pretty cool. I work for the agency now. As Bev said, I'm a case manager, and this agency saved my life. I was taught how to be a mother. I was taught how to be a friend. I was taught how to live through this agency, and I give that back to all of our clients that come through our doors today. And yeah, I also have a son, and my son is just over a year old, and he was not born exposed to substances or anything, and that was a pretty cool process. Like through the entire pregnancy, I was just like, I was a normal, healthy human being, and I knew what to do when he cried because I had such trouble with my daughter. But life today is great. I still run into normal, life on life's terms. So I've got issues and things that happen, and I'm able to choose today to stay sober. So instead of letting something like my car was stolen randomly a month or so ago, and that easily could have just sent me right back out for me to feel like, all my hard work and everything. But I mean, it's just a car. I still have my life. I have my kids. I have my job. I have my sobriety, and that's what's beautiful, and that's what counts. So